Lonesome Report. I'm Jim Mundorf from Southwest Iowa, and Shad Sullivan is coming to you from.
High on top of Antelope Mesa, northwest Crowley County, Colorado.
I knew it would be something kind of poetic there. It wasn't just going to be where you were, high atop Antelope Mesa
That's
in
right,
Crowley,
brother.
the home ranch. Is that the house you grew up in?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the house my mom grew up in.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
it's cold here.
It's cold. It's kind of cold here. How cold is it?
It's about 25.
Yeah, that's same here. All right, you can watch this on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple, or listen on Spotify, Apple. Go to Lonesome Land's website when you're buying your Christmas presents. Everybody's gonna be begging you for the smoking deals, all that stuff. Go to Lonesome Land's website. You can buy a hat like this. You can subscribe, t-shirts, other stuff there. Not the best merch salesman, but help us keep doing what we're doing. So first topic of the day, Secretary of Agriculture. I think it seems like it's been the first topic every time we've got together, but now we know. Now we know. So let me know what you think. What do you think of her?
Well, I don't know anything about her. She
I
is
guess
the,
should we lay out how the
yeah,
whole
lay it
thing?
out.
Because not everybody is on the tip edge of their seat on this deal, kind of like we were, I feel like, or some of us.
Yeah.
Um, so what happened? I think it was Friday that the name Kelly Loeffler leaked that she was going to be the Secretary of Ag. And
Yeah.
CNN leaked it, and everybody threw a big fit because she has no connection really to agriculture other than growing up on a farm. Her husband runs a New York Stock Exchange. She's a billionaire. She's on the transition team, which means she's part of the team that's choosing cabinet members, I think. So it was just all very strange. But once that CNN leaked that, then you didn't hear anything from it. And
No.
I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so a
You
little bit.
did. You
Because
did. Because I,
after some time went by, I was like, this one isn't like usually when they announce a cabinet member within an hour or two, the the Trump team comes out with their press release. Or not announce it, but when rumors start flying. And this one the rumors were flying and we didn't hear anything for almost I think 24 hours the next day, and the next thing you know, they announced well, they're right before they announced it, the name did come out. And people were talking about it. And then they announced
well, when you said don't panic, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we got to figure out who this person is. So I called to Georgia, a friend of mine who happens to be a friend of hers. Obviously, not a great friend, but he couldn't believe it. He's like, what? He said, he'd been in the sale barn all day, and he's like, there's no way. And I said, well, what is she? Well, she was appointed as a senator after a vacancy, and then she re-ran but did not win. And he just said, man, if you're expecting change, they got the wrong gal. Well, I was all a little bit upset about the whole deal, and you were like, calm down. There's something strange here. This isn't going the way these others have gone. And I'm like, you know what, you're right. So I just kind of pulled back on it, and I needed to work, so I just pulled back on it, and then the truth come out. Brooke Rollins, the most important operative Republicans have never heard of, is what they claim her to be. And that she is an advisor to Trump, big time. She was the president. She is the president and CEO of the America First Policy Institute, which was created by Trump. She's the former CEO of Texas Public Policy Foundation and served Trump as the director of the U.S. Domestic Policy Council. She's from Glen Rose, Texas. She was an FFA member. I think she was a state FFA officer. She's an Aggie, was the first Aggie, female Aggie to ever speak at the muster event. I think that's at homecoming. I'm not an Aggie, so I don't know. But
they
she's
don't
got a lot
call
of credentials.
so West Texas A&M, which is where
Is
you
it?
went. There
Yeah.
they're not like connected. It's totally
No,
different schools.
the Texas A&M system owns it, but we
You
are
guys aren't cult members with wear rings and
we're
do
not.
your
No,
chants, and you weren't
no.
a yell leader.
We chant for the Buffalo, the West Texas A&M Buffalo, not for Texas A&M Aggies.
Right.
So,
All right.
well,
Just
yeah, I
making
don't
sure.
know much about this gal. I mean, there's not a lot to be found about her out about her, but she seems to be very loyal to President Trump. Seems to be smart. She's a lawyer. She's been a part of all these organizations, but I don't find much ag info on her other than her and her husband are very quiet about their political life and their outside life, and they have 4 kids, and they're very involved in activities, and they love to show cattle. So that's really all I can find on agriculturally speaking. They did say that they retired her FFA jacket in the Glen Rose High School, so that was impressive, right? And
Yeah.
so she's going to be our next Secretary of Agriculture. I have reached out to her um, to invite her to visit with us and tell us who she is. And I have not heard back, which I mean, it's busy. I don't expect to. So, so yeah, we'll see what happens now, right? I know that Sid Miller had an appointment yesterday at Mar-a-Lago for some sort of interview. I think initially he thought it was going to be the Secretary of Ag interview. Now maybe it's undersecretary. Who knows?
Or deputy or whatever.
Yeah, but anyway,
So she
that's
said
all I know.
she's, yeah, the only thing anybody knows, she's from the plains. She said she's from the plains of Glen Rose, Texas. Is that because so if people, Glen Rose is it's southwest of
Fort Worth.
Fort Worth. I looked it up. How
I I think it's just a suburb of Fort Worth, is what I
that's
think.
what, but maybe when she was growing up, it might not have been.
Maybe so. She's
20
2
years
years
ago,
older
it's
than.
probably different. Yeah. You don't know much about Glen Rose? Have you,
No,
how
I
far is
don't.
it from you? A couple hours?
Probably, yeah, hour and a half, couple hours. I'm friends with the FFA ag teacher on Facebook from Glen Rose. He's a super smart little guy,
Is
not
it the
little.
one? So she had a whole thing. She went on her social media where she thanked her ag teacher. Is
Yeah,
it
that
the same
wasn't him.
guy? That's not him.
No, it's a young guy now.
Yeah. But that was
So
cool. And yeah, she's a show
yeah.
cattle mom, which could be good. Could be. That doesn't say it a whole lot. There's plenty of, I don't know. I'll keep my mouth
Well,
shut about the show cattle business.
the only thing that bothers me about her is, you know, excuse me, the the elites are really congratulating her hard,
Well,
uh,
that's you're gonna have that no matter what.
and but she's responding to them, and I want her to respond to the lower level people like me,
You
and
want her to give you a call?
yeah, I want her to call me, and I don't know, her relationship with Zippy Duvall, the American Farm Bureau, seems to be very close.
Why do you
So
say that?
that well, he'd come out praising her, and she'd come out
Well,
praising him.
he's a lobbyist. I don't know that she praised him. She said, "What do you think she said that praised him?" All I saw is I look forward to working together to make American agriculture great again.
And that's when I responded, American Farm Bureau needs to stay in their lane and sell insurance.
So, but that's the all. So we're just jumping. Yeah, but I mean, they're lobbyists. They're gonna come. If it was Thomas Massey or RFK
Listen,
Jr., they'd be
I,
like, "Congratulations, look forward to working with you." I
yeah,
mean, so
I just want her to be not forget the lower level people, the grassroots producers of the
right,
United States. We are the very core of this election, and it's important that we get to know her and who she is and her policies quickly, because if we're really going to change something and not be status quo here, we need to be able to work with her and work together.
all
And
right. Well, that's
so
what should be said. But
I'm
I,
actually excited about it, because it's time that we had one spoken for and nominated, and it's time we go to work. That's the
yeah.
truth. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, and I've said this for a long time, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, you could say the same thing for Farm Bureau. What you can take lessons from them, away from them, is how to lobby. Like when this lady gets, named, you don't look at her and just be. I mean, she's it. This is who we're gonna have.
That's
And so
right.
you can be pissed off about it. And you just said, I look forward to working with her. Well, working with her isn't, this comes from a number of, this isn't, this comes from a number of things I saw on social media, like, oh, this lady sucks. It's like from
Yeah, we
guys
didn't know
who,
her though.
yeah, and they had their guy that they wanted, and their guy didn't get in. But, when Farm Bureau and NCBA look at it, it's like, how can we get our stuff done? And how you can get your stuff done is not talking about how much she sucks and how it's not your pick and all that kind of stuff. But you come in and say, we look forward to working with you. Let's get some stuff done,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people in agriculture are just out on their ranches and farms, and
Well,
and they're not as they don't really understand how you kind of have to be. You can't come into it wanting to get your stuff done, being pissed off about the pick.
one thing I do like about it is all of these organizations she has created or she has run as CEO are very liberty minded organizations. They're freedom making organizations. And that right there is a lot more than what we've had. Right.
Yeah. And
So
the
I'm,
other, go ahead.
yeah, I'm all about that. I'm very excited about that.
Another thing I would, yeah, all she's talked about food security. I think she's talked about like property rights, or I mean, just kind of sovereignty, things like that. Well, at
Mm-hmm.
least in the America First
Yes.
website.
Yeah.
And I think the best thing about her, she has no connection to, I thought the
That
worst
might
thing
be.
about Kelly Loeffler was probably what people thought liked was that she had served on the ag committee. But I was like, no, that sucks because she's had all the lobbyists in her office. If you've been on the ag committee, you've talked to NCBA and you've had them in their office greasing you up and telling you all how they're the voice of the cattlemen and all that BS.
Right.
But this gal is coming in as a complete outsider, and so that's what a lot of people wanted. The Joel Salatin, Thomas Massey got a lot of people excited, including me. But I just thought that was too good to be true almost, and it turned out it was.
Well, it turned out to be a very confusing time. And I don't think Joel Salatin meant to do what he did.
He
And I
needs
don't,
to say something at some point.
I agree. He needs to come out on his blog and say something. But you know what? We need Massey in Congress. There's
Yeah.
no doubt about that. So let's move on. Let's get this gal going and help each other teach her.
Yeah. And that's what I thought
Truth.
too. Nobody knows anything about her, so why be mad about it?
Exactly.
Because maybe she's talking to RFK every day. Maybe she's talking to Thomas Massey every day. Maybe the main concern is people have with America First is it's a way for big money donors to dump a bunch of money into the campaign.
Right.
So because they can't dump money into the actual campaign, they can dump all they want into these,
Yes.
what is it, Public Action Committee? Is that PAC? Um, and so she's been running that, which means she's probably got close relationship with big money donors, but that doesn't necessarily, I mean, she's the pick, like I said. So you might as well just sit back and wait until you
Yeah.
know anything before you
Yeah.
get too pissed off.
Well, listen, hey, here's the deal. The last two secretaries of agriculture are supposedly producers.
Yeah.
No, neither one of them represented the American people. One of them said, the Republican, the conservative one said, get big or get out. The other one says you're going to be mandated to sign on to the sustainability model. Neither one of those are for us. This gal may be for us. She is common. She seems nice.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
we
like her. I'll say that today, and maybe
All
someday I'll
right.
go back and say, you were so wrong, but
Well, I don't know her
why not
personally.
like her today?
Well, I don't know her personally, so I can't say if I like her or not, but I'm going to give her a chance. And I think that I mean, she's a Texan. We know Texans love liberty. That's what we're fighting for here is liberty and freedom. And, and so we got to go with it. And I am excited to talk to her. She's going to come on my RCAF podcast, and then she's going to come on your podcast, and we're going to get her.
Well, yeah, I guess I haven't reached out, but if you get a hold of her, you let her know. I'm
If
looking
I
for.
get a hold of her, we're doing it, bro.
Yeah. Well, where does she live now?
Austin, it seems. Yeah.
Oh.
That's where
Oh, would
the
yeah,
AFPI America First
first.
Policy Institute is at.
Yeah. Next to the Capitol building there.
And I really did like her website. I thought it needed more ag issues
Did
blended
you
in there.
look at it? So if you
Yeah.
go to America First website, they have
Uh-huh.
an agriculture tab, and the
Right.
vast majority of the articles listed there were about China buying farmland. I guess.
Correct. And she's already come out against that. So that's
Okay.
great. And but it was a very easy website. You need to go look at it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. And so, I mean, yeah, there's the one thing we know that her, and that's a good thing. It's not
Agreed.
like it
Well,
could have
I'm glad
been.
it's finally over, Jim.
Yeah,
I'm
that's the
I'm
other
glad
thing.
we have somebody because this was driving a lot of people crazy, and because I think that with this election, grassroots producers across the nation finally saw or thought that they had a voice in something, and they were excited about it, and because this was the closest we've ever been to bridging the gap from producer to policy and producer to consumer. That whole gap is bridged, and I think that people were just excited and they got overwhelmed, and we get in a hurry. It's like going to the horse races. You're ready for them to start, and they haven't opened the gates yet. We've got to wait for them to open the gates
Right.
and see halfway down the track where we're at, and that's where we're at. So
Yeah. Here
yeah,
we are.
here we are,
All right.
brother.
So the other thing, if you didn't have something you were going to shoot into,
You go
but
right ahead.
I've seen a number of people talk about animal rights activists in the cabinet. And I guess
Correct.
you know a lot more about that than I do because,
I don't really know that much about it. I do know that Matt Gates obviously has a long.
which
I mean, he
he's,
obviously has a history behind, not including animal rights, but he is not animal owner friendly. Neither is Lara Trump. They both claim to be conservatives, but the Cavalry Group, I know for a fact, has worked against a lot of their legislation for the last 15 years that would inhibit animal ownership and not uplift the freedom to produce how you see
but
fit.
then Pam Bondi. So Matt Gates isn't a cabinet member now,
He's
but
he's
he's
out. He's out.
obviously going to be doing something somewhere.
Right.
He's
Right.
keeps leaving these
He's
crypt.
a smart guy.
Yeah.
Jim. He's a
I,
smart guy.
yeah. And he kind of I felt like he got a little railroaded there. But this Pam Bondi, they're saying the same thing about her. Like, and so to be more specific, you talk about animal rights ownership. The main thing I've heard about is Greyhound. They got Greyhound racing.
Correct.
Both Gates, Lara Trump, Pam Bondi were involved in getting Greyhound racing kicked out of banned
Florida.
in Florida, I
Right.
guess. And is there anything else other than that?
I think that's the major issue.
Yeah. And I had a neighbor that raised Greyhound dogs, so I'm not. I could care less about Greyhound
Well,
racing.
I
And
know,
he
I
wasn't the
know.
kind of person that should be owning Greyhound dogs.
Well, listen though, it's all about incrementalism, and you have to be very careful
Yeah, I agree.
United States about limiting ownership and limiting things that create their own market. And so, if okay, so let's take for example in the north, a lot of farmers and ranchers, mitigate coyotes through with greyhounds, right? And so, if they start with that, then where do we go?
Well, they aren't banning greyhounds. They're banning the practice of
The
racing,
race.
which I'm not saying that they should be banned. I
Well,
know nothing
who
about
who
greyhound
says they're
racing.
not going to ban horse racing next?
Right. Yeah. I mean,
That's
I
the
agree.
problem. That's what you have to keep in your mind.
Yeah. The whole incrementalism. They
Yeah.
want to control animals in one way, they'll control them as many ways as they possibly can.
Correct. That's right.
So that's a concern, I guess.
Yes, it is.
All right. What do you got?
Well, um, APHIS under USDA closed the Mexican border to um, cattle
Right. And
import
I thought,
due to the screwworm. And this is not new news. I mean, we have been hearing of rumors, and there are articles out there talking about the what is the word I'm trying to look for? Illegally bringing in or smuggling live cattle from South America into Mexico. That this is not new. I've been hearing about it for 5 years, and so those cattle, believe it or not, the United States spends a lot of taxpayer money in South America trying to mitigate the screwworm issue,
Explain
which,
explain screwworm.
it's a larvae that gets into open wounds and just decimates it. Decimates the. It's a larva of a fly, right? And gets into open wounds and will just decimate these cattle. And I guess it's very painful. It's very, very uncomfortable.
Kind of like a
And
big maggot, right?
yeah, it's a big maggot. Exactly. And we had it in the United States. I can remember all the old cowboys from South Texas talking about having to work on screwworms, and I have no experience in it whatsoever. Neither did we. I mean, my dad didn't. That's not a northern thing. But if it gets into the United States where we have already eliminated it, it could be devastating for the industry. And so then you got the border closing to live cattle imports. Well, what's that? What kind of effect is that going to have on the domestic cattle supply? I mean, I think there's positives and negatives to all of this, and it's going to flesh itself out here this week to see really where it goes market wise. There's in the Great Plains. I mean, the wheat is beautiful, and they're needing cattle with the shortage of cattle in the United States, lowest numbers in 70 years. Um, we have that issue. And then we have the issue that there are a lot of people who have gone broke or just gone out of the cattle business because of overhead expenses. I mean, they're like, it's not worth spending all this money to make such a small amount. And
But
so we have a lot of people getting out.
go into just you because I feel like this is a good place for to kind of explain to people who aren't in the cattle business or aren't in your sector what you got to deal with now because everybody sees high cattle prices. There, boy, cattle guys are making a ton of money. But so you're buying cat, you need to buy cattle right now, and feeder calves have never been higher.
Never,
And so what Shad has to look at is he has to buy cattle now, spend more money than he ever has before,
ever
and hope
on
that
less cattle.
yeah, and hope
Well,
that in 10 months or so they're still high.
and I mean, here's where we're at. We're actually maybe working off of a supply and demand centered um, industry right now because of the low numbers. Cattle prices are high, right? That's the way it's supposed to work. And we're happy. I'm happy as heck for these cow calf guys. I mean, they're getting $2,000 a calf for these calves, and this is where it should be. To be honest with you, the second segment of the industry is my segment, is where I buy those calves. So if I need to buy 2,000 calves, and the buy cost is $2,000 per head, well, there's $4 million, right? And if you're living off borrowed money like I'm living off of, you put your assets up as collateral. Well, those assets, even though our overhead of expenses have just gone exponentially wild, our assets are not worth anymore. And so you don't only have so much access to money. So I have a limited access to money, and I still have commitments to make on leased ranches and leased wheat in Texas and all this. So you really have to balance this out, and you have to be willing to manage it right, manage it conservatively, and be very flexible in what you're doing. And as a yearling man, which is what I am, I buy those stalker calves. I I'm a little different. I used to be willing to take a lot of risk on the other end, but the money that we're talking about now, no way. And so, if you buy a lightweight calf and have to give $1,400 for a 3 weight steer calf, which is going to be really cheap, and then you put all your year long expenses into that calf, well, you're getting up there of a break even like around 250, 255, somewhere in there. And the October board or the September board for next year is for 2025 is at 259 this morning, and it's going to go up. So you have to, I think as a producer, I have to protect my investment in some way. And there's all kinds of options out there. The government funded LRP, I do not participate in that. I'm a hedger, and I'll use options as well. And so that's probably what I'm going to do on this round, but it is. I am probably going to buy less cattle with the same amount of money. We're going to have to be very careful. So then you have uh, the closed border. We import over 1 million head of live cattle from Mexico a year, and a lot of those cattle are grazed on wheat, and then they go to the feed yards in Texas. And you have wheat farmers. Depending on some of those, you got some cattle buyers. You have um, obviously feed yards, private and corporate feed yards, and so it really poses a kind of a two-edged sword problem. I like the idea of closing the border to all those imports, but I don't like the idea of my friends and neighbors suffering. So um, there's a lot of wheat and there's not enough cattle for them, and people are going to need some income. And wheat is at what, 3.90, $4 a bushel? That's nothing I mean, that's nothing. That's a losing game right there. So they need these cattle to graze. But like I said, it's a two-edged sword for me, because I want the American product and I don't want to have to compete with those calves. But it's kind of a circle there, buddy.
Yeah. And then you look at, how if you're looking at, you probably should have been buying cattle 2 weeks ago because
I should have
who
been
would have
buying
known? And that's
2 weeks.
how, yeah, that's how the whole business works. There's always somebody losing. I mean, there's a million ways to go broke, no matter what the market is. And so now you're looking at, over the last couple days, the markets went up, and now Trump's talking about tariffs on Canada, Mexico, which is probably going to push things even higher. But then you could buy those in the day before you're ready to sell them. Though they could come to a trade agreement and those tariffs could go away, or they could stop the ban on, the screwworm deal could be over, right before you want to sell
Oh,
them, or
I
right
think
before right after you buy them, or, there's so
there's
many
only
different ways.
yeah, and there's only really, I mean, they're not going to keep the border closed. They're just
Yeah.
not. Lobby is too heavy. There's only two articles. Actually, one article that I've seen is out of Reuters, and then there's just one little snippet on the border closing under the APHIS website. And so I don't think that they're going to hold that border shut very long. I think the lobby is going to be too strong. NCBA is going to get in there, and the Packers and all of them. I mean, they all need the cattle, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think it'll be long lived. And I could be wrong, but we'll just see how this shakes out, like everything else.
Yeah, the business is in at an interesting time. We've
Yeah,
had lowest numbers in 72 years, and now
yeah,
they just shut off like you said, a
yeah,
million head spigot from Mexico.
yeah.
So
That's right.
here we are.
Here we are.
What else you got?
Well, I thought the one thing that was probably really important to Americans this week was at COP29, they adopted Article 6 of the Paris Climate Agreement, which is basically they mandated a framework to force emission mitigations and clean energy products to fund these catapults, these market, what would you call them, mechanisms to start carbon trading. And that was adopted at COP29. Now you'll
COP
remember
29.
is the
Most
UN.
people don't know what that is.
Well, it's the United Nations Sustainable Development Convention, right?
It's where all the billionaires fly their private jets into. I heard there was like a 25% increase in private jets at the thing. And did you see also it's Azerbaijan, right?
Yep.
Which I have heard, I know because it's where they have Formula One races, and I follow the Formula One car racing now. But um, there was a video of a guy driving down the road outside of town, and it's pump jacks as close together. I mean, the whole area, it's in the Middle East, and
The
the whole,
irony.
yeah, and it's one of the richest cities and countries in the world,
And why
and
do
it's
they do
all
that?
comes from oil.
I know they're the whole premise of the carbon credit system is to go away from you know uh, oil and gas, right? Fossil fuels. And so I'm always wondering why they do that there. But you'll remember, um, President Trump got us out of
Yeah, and he's promised
well,
to
the
again.
Paris Climate Accord is what
Yeah,
it is. It's the Paris Agreement.
right.
He got us out of that, and then the first day in office, Biden put us right back into it.
Yeah.
I suspect Trump will get us out of that again.
I
Uh,
bet you the first day, he's harder on this climate stuff than he ever
yeah,
has been. So
yes,
there's no
absolutely.
way we're staying in that.
I
But
would
it
think
does
that.
affect things, I think. I don't know though. It's weird. That whole carbon credit thing, I think the push for it, you don't see the push like you did a few years ago.
Well,
And I think
no,
over the
I think
next year, you're really not going to see the push.
you were right last week when you talked about the elimination of meat, but now it's like, it's the same way with this. They were going to eliminate, and now we're going to start trading. We're going to
Yeah.
ease back into this. But what it is it's a mandatory sustainable development tool. That's what it is. And I cannot see President Trump and this administration saying we are going to abide by any mandatory rule from the United
Well,
Nations.
number one, I would think if I was president, number one thing on my list would be defunding the United Nations. The entire attack on agriculture as a climate destroyer has come and originated with the United Nations, and it's because America is an agriculture superpower, and the United Nations, if you look at what the United Nations does, their goal is to eliminate or make America less influential or powerful or any of those things.
Correct.
So the attack on agriculture is just an anti-American thing that they've gotten all these corporations to go along with because, and it seems like a lot of these corporations are in on the anti-America
Well,
when you
they
look at their
are.
global, everything's global,
It's all
global,
about a
global.
global market, right? That's what it's about. They want the global market, and to have a global market, you can't have any boundaries. It's all got to be one deal. But yeah, this deal is, I don't know. I think that the elite are going to use this rule as a way to gain control of more land, right? They're going to use carbon credits mixed in with uh, easements, conservation easements. You're going to see an exponential movement of global elites and the mega rich buy land, put these easements on, start trading carbon credits. I think it's going to be a real mess. And so you have, I think, as landowners and producers, we have to decide, well, what are we going to do? Going to take the big money and get out, or are we going to, stand in sovereignty as producers? I don't, it's a personal. Honestly, it's a personal decision. Um, it's your right to sell your land, and I think it's going to get us in
There's
trouble.
I think there's a lot of stuff involved in this that people don't realize, and this will lead into kind of another thing I was going to talk about. Jack Payne, I did a podcast with him here this last week where he explains his rally for Trump and how hard he tried to work for the Trump campaign and how he was kind of ignored and kind of pushed aside a little bit by that deal. And I mean, that's something we can get into. But as you're talking about this, it reminds me, he told me the two biggest ranches that surround his, which he's running like 1 million acres in Nevada. And the two biggest ranches around him got sold to mining companies, I think coal.
Right?
Um, and the reason they bought them is so that they can have these carbon credits and then they
Yeah.
can go in and do more environmental damage, I guess, to put it a little more blunt probably than what it is, but then they're allowed to, they have these carbon credits, and so then they're allowed to kind of do what they want, I guess, and that's
Well,
the
I
way
mean,
to get around it. But then so now we end up with some of the biggest ranches in Nevada are run by mining companies and not ranchers who want to make money off cattle.
the state of Texas just bought one of the biggest ranches in Texas down along the border, and they said it was to keep foreign entities from buying that ranch. Now it was a huge ranch, and they would have to split it up for a regular rancher to buy it. But it makes you wonder why the state? I mean, the state is not supposed to be in private competition on land ownership with the people. And so I'm sitting here going, well, is that, was that part of that issue there too? So,
Yeah, and then it goes into you running up land prices, making it
yeah,
impossible for actual small independent farmers to get involved if they want to get involved. Everybody says, "Well, these kids are moving off the farm." Well, what are they supposed to do if, one farmer has three kids and the farm isn't going to support three or four or two, I mean, however many kids you got, and the other ones can't go out and
sure.
buy land because the mining company's buying it.
Yeah.
So, or the state
So it
or
makes me wonder
whatever.
who's going to produce food, Jim.
Yeah, right. Yep. So, you got anything else?
I think that's about it. I'm just,
I didn't say this is our Thanksgiving edition. I was gonna say that
well,
at the
this is our
beginning.
Thanksgiving edition. What are you
You're,
thankful for, Jim?
oh, I don't know, man. Now, see, I wasn't gonna get into all that. Oh man, I'm thankful for I got a guy that'll put tires on my car today so that I can drive that dang thing to 4 hours away to the in-laws and spend a couple days there. But what are you doing for Thanksgiving? Building fence?
I'm hoping to be done by then. I am thankful for that 26 inches of snow we got last week or 2 weeks ago because it is digging good and easy. I love it. And so, yeah, we got a half mile. It's me and one of the school marms around here got a half mile completely done yesterday. Hopefully, we get a half mile done today, but it's not looking like it's going to happen.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm thankful for that. And then I think me and my me and my little boy are in Colorado. My wife is in Texas. She's going to have it with her parents. I'm going to have it with my mom. I haven't had a Thanksgiving with my mom in 32 years.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
uh, yeah, I know. So we're going to go down into the valley, the Arkansas River Valley, and one of her best friends is going to host it, and we're going to eat lunch with them.
No. And she don't even have to cook, huh?
She's not good. Well, she's gonna cook. She'll take something down
Yeah.
there, but it'll be good and fun. Kind of take you back to the past, to the old days. That's what I like.
Yeah.
And well,
You're
that's
not
about
gonna
all that's
be so
going
I
on
feel
around
like
here.
everybody talks about sitting around watching football and so I'm in my
Yeah,
in-laws in town and they all are excited about the football. I don't know. You ever watch
yeah.
football?
I don't know, but my wife. It's weird because I don't watch any. I don't watch any TV, but my wife watches all the sports: basketball,
Right.
volleyball, football, college, pro, all of that. And I read more than that, I guess. I don't know. I'm just not into all that stuff.
Yeah. I'll watch one game usually a year and it'll be Iowa, Nebraska. Because so
Yeah,
I'm right by Nebraska and a lot of my friends are Husker fans, and then I go over to the east side of the state where everybody's
right.
from Iowa and they're all rooting for Iowa over there. I don't really care.
Yeah,
Who cares?
yeah.
Um, what else? What'd you think of Jack Payne podcast?
I thought it was really good. I like Jack Payne. He's just such a straight shooter. He's my type of guy,
And that's
and
the
he's
thing.
got a lot of.
I've been trying to get him to sit down for an hour since the election. I don't know how many weeks ago that was, but he had been up in Jordan Valley working cattle and coming down, and he had two big sales here in the last week or so at a sale barn, and then yeah, I mean, getting him to sit down for an hour is a task,
Right.
but
No, it was really good. And you know what? He's one of those guys that's highly experienced, right? I mean, he's a young, I don't know how old Jack is. I suppose he's my age, but you find very few people that have that much production experience on that many levels, ranching, the sale barn, all of these things that he I thought about him putting on that muley roping out there during the Trump deal. And I'm like, my gosh, how does he find the help to do all that stuff? But it was really good. And you know what? Something about Jack is he stands for what is right no matter what, and he
yeah,
doesn't care. He doesn't have to fit in. He's not a self promoter. He's an America first guy. That's what I
yeah.
like about Jack.
And that's almost coming out of that podcast. If you haven't seen it, he was really kind of ignored by the Trump campaign when he tried his hardest to put on this rally, and he'd done it
Yeah,
before. And Don Jr. had been there, so he was kind of expecting more help out of the deal. And I was almost like he was, and his main thing that he said in that podcast was, I was just glad he won. You know what I mean? Like he was just, his goal in the whole thing wasn't to promote
That's
Nevada livestock marketing or to promote anything. His goal was to get Trump to win. And when it happened, he kind of put everything else to the side. I think I would have a little bigger, a little bigger complaint than what he did because he didn't
bitterness.
want to make. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, and I talked to him, and he put on, and his wife, and to put on those kind of events, that's a ton of work. I don't
Oh
think people
yeah,
realize. And money, he
it's no
poured a
small
ton
feat.
of money into it of his own. And, that was the goal, is to raise money for Trump. And then it was almost like they didn't even care if they got it. You know, it was,
Well, and what did he raise? 270,000, and two
yeah,
hundred
that's
and
what he
seventy
said.
thousand to common producers is a fortune. It's a
Right.
fortune, and for that just to be disrespected by it was the who was it? Was it the Trump campaign?
Some person in the campaign that was like his contact is who he kind of
Yeah, it
complained
was
about. He says
terrible.
some
I mean,
lady, yeah, yeah, it was, but I mean, it does go to show too, like it is a pay to play even to get time to even say hi to the president. And so, how much are these people pouring money into? And I think it goes into too, like if Trump really wanted to change things, this whole Citizens United, remember that? Where it kind of just opened up
yeah,
the floodgates of money pouring into these campaigns.
yeah.
I mean, if Americans were serious about getting that out of there, they would get that out of there. And I don't know really how the whole thing works, or it was like a Supreme Court decision or something. So I don't know. It's just disappointing to think that, and that they couldn't even realize that these are ranchers given their hard-earned money. This isn't some stock
Their
exchange
lifeblood.
guy,
Yeah,
like that lady's husband who just has $1 billion sitting around and he could hand over 1 million to,
yeah.
so
I
yeah, that
know,
was
and that's the thing is, a rancher a rancher writes a check for $5,000, and that is a huge sacrifice.
right.
Huge, especially. I mean,
You could
and
buy two
so that was
calves
a
with
little
that.
disrespectful. One pair.
Yeah,
Uh,
there you
yeah,
go.
I saw this week at La Junta, Colorado, in their market report that there was 6 head of 316-pound steers bring $5.40 a pound.
Really? I never saw that. That's the John Campbell report. Well, I saw
No,
it. There was some.
it's the other cell barn there.
Oh,
The honey family owns that.
no. I saw there was
There's two cell barns in Colorado.
yeah. There was in South Dakota they showed a video of a sale, and there were 17, I don't remember how many there were, but they were 1,700 pound steers and they sold for $1.86. So
1,700-pound steers.
yeah. I don't know how big a group it was. I don't think it was a big group, but it was still, I mean, I was afraid to do the math on that.
Yeah,
But anyway, is
it's
that all we
wild, that's
got?
for sure.
Happy Thanksgiving, Oh, go to
Yep.
lonesomelands.com. You can buy this hat.
Yeah.
And I'm probably not going to make a big discount deal because here's the thing about selling this merch, which you get into this deal and everybody, well, you make money by selling merch. Well, I've got a merch line. And when I get an order, I got to drop everything I'm doing, go and find the size, pack it up, type out the label, all that stuff. So my orders haven't been going out as quick as they should. But, and the thing on this hat, the gal that made these, and you can put in, if you want to buy a hat, you can type in whatever, put it in the internet and send your design off to China, and they'll send you all the cheap hats that you want, and you can get them for next to nothing. I got this hat from a lady in Ainsworth, Nebraska, whose husband ranches and they raise cattle, and that's how I wanted to buy them. So the margin on that isn't very big. So I guess what I'm
No,
saying is if you're going to buy this stuff, pay attention to where it's coming from. And that's how I want
I
to do
agree.
business. And that's the same with my t-shirts. I do it a little shop down the road. Because I'm not gonna, when you are selling this kind of stuff, it's real easy. You can go to the internet and type in, a million ads will come up for get the cheapest garbage you can that printed in China and sent back over here and all that. And the other thing is
Well,
buying,
let's work on.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I was just going to say, let's work on getting Lonesome Lands 1 million subscribers.
Yeah, there you go. Or subscribe on YouTube. I'm real close to 30,000, which I've actually been over 30,000. I've talked about this before. For some reason, subscribers kind of come and go. I don't know how that works. But I was going to say this Amazon crap. Everybody's all
Yeah,
pissed off that their small towns are dying and their local stores are shutting down and then their porches are full of Amazon boxes. Quit buying that. You know,
exactly.
I order from
Stop it.
Amazon when I can't get it at, even like Home Depot. If I can order something I'll go to Menards or Home Depot or Baumgars. I try to buy as much as I can in town so that when I need it, it's there. But then
We buy
everybody,
everything we can in town. We support our local communities, and they
right?
support us. And you might get at our house. We there might be 2 Amazon boxes a year come to our house. But
Yeah,
my neighbors down the street, there's 10 a day.
I
There's
know
always
it.
Amazon boxes loaded up at their front door. And I'm like, do they buy anything? I mean, people are even buying dog food.
Oh,
I'm
I
like,
know.
gosh, we got to support local. We got to support American.
There you go. There's a great
That,
message to end on.
that's the theme. That's
If you
right.
go out shopping, get your butt. If you're going to be on the computer, go to lonesomelands.com where I'm supporting local and
Yeah.
American. But if you
Yep.
got to buy a TV or even a TV or any of that kind of stuff, get your butt off the computer and go buy one. And then you'll have the store there. And you're
Go get
giving
one
money to your
local.
local community. That business is paying taxes in your community, all that kind of stuff. It's
Agree.
it's the way we need to start doing things. Even if you have to pay $5 extra, you'll have the store there next time you need it. High atop Antelope Mesa.